For takeaways from Pam Bondi's fiery Epstein testimony. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi defended the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein files and faced a barrage of angry questions on other issues during a fiery congressional hearing on Wednesday. Her testimony before the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee descended at times into a shouting match, with Bondi at one point calling a Democrat a washed-up loser and, after another heated exchange, one lawmaker even stormed out. The hearing followed the release by the Justice Department earlier this year of millions more files from its investigations into the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Several of Epstein's victims were seated behind Bondi at the hearing, and lawmakers frequently referenced them. In her opening statement, Bondi called Epstein a monster and told the victims she was sorry for the abuse they endured. But lawmakers then directed a host of complaints at Bondi about how the Justice Department has handled its release of the files. Several criticized what they said was a failure to redact the names of victims as was required by law. Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal said that in some cases nude images of survivors were released, some of whom have had their identities protected for decades. Jayapal asked survivors in the room to stand and raise their hand if they had not been able to meet with the Justice Department, which led all of them to rise. Jayapal then asked Bondi to apologize to the victims for the Justice Department's handling of redactions. Bondi fired back, describing Jayapal's questioning as theatrics and adding him not going to get in the gutter with this woman. The Attorney General said at another point during the hearing that officials were doing their best to protect victims in the timeframe allotted by the legislation which required the files to be released. She said any names brought to them that have been released inadvertently have been immediately redacted. The hearing turned tense over names in the Epstein files that had been redacted, too. A bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers has accused the Justice Department of improperly removing the names of people from the files who are not protected. They have been allowed to review unredacted versions of the files, which has since led the Justice Department to unredact names in at least one document. Thomas Massie, a Republican who has been involved in these efforts, told Bondi he wanted to know who was responsible for the redactions and whether anybody will be held accountable for the failure. Massie went on to say that this issue is bigger than Watergate and spanned numerous U.S. administrations. This is a political joke, Bondi said as Massie continued to press her on why some people's names, including billionaire Les Wexner, had been blacked out from the files initially. FBI Director Kash Patel, who was also at the hearing, chimed in to say there was no evidence Epstein trafficked women to Wexner. Wexner has previously alleged that Epstein stole millions of dollars from him while working as his financial advisor. A legal representative for Wexner told the BBC the assistant U.S. attorney told Mr Wexner's legal counsel in 2019 that Mr Wexner was being viewed as source of information about Epstein and was not a target in any respect. Mr Wexner cooperated fully by providing background information on Epstein and was never contacted again. During discussion of the Epstein files, California Democratic Representative Ted Lieu mentioned Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, who is facing growing pressure from officials in the family of his prominent accuser Virginia Giuffre to testify in the U.S. Andrew has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and reached an out-of-court settlement with Giuffre in 2022 containing no admission of liability. Lieu had the hearing display a picture of the former prince from the Epstein files, which shows Mountbatten-Windsor on all fours hovering over a female. No context has been